Joining us again here at the Nature Center. We're so happy that you could join us. We're here for another live naturalist chat, and today we're going to be talking about snakes. So the weather's warming up, as you've probably noticed, and today is a nice sunny day here at the Nature Center, and you might have started to notice some snaky friends that have begun emerging from different places. Some parts of the state is probably earlier than others, and especially when we have rain and rainy evenings and it's been warmer, a lot of reptiles and amphibians start moving this time of year, and so this is the time in which we start talking about reptiles. So we're going to start talking about that today, and I have a lot of different things to show you today, and I have some snaky friends to show you today. I want you to ask questions, post them in the comments there, and please remember that even after this video is done, you can ask questions in the comments and I'll still see them and I'll be able to answer your questions there. So don't feel like once this video is done being live that you can't ask questions. Alright, so to get started, here in Alabama we have a lot of different animals. We've talked about Alabama's biodiversity before, and we've talked about how many reptiles and different amphibians and different animals that Alabama has. Well, we have a lot of snake species too. So we have somewhere around 50 different kinds of snakes, give or take. It's according to who you talk to and things like that. But somewhere around there we have around 50 different kinds of snakes. Now, are all of them venomous? A lot of people will say yes, but actually not. So we only have, I can tell you this with absolute certainty, six venomous snakes that are harmful to humans. And so I'm going to show you something real quick. Now this is a really good book. Now, any snake that you can find here in Alabama is going to be found in this book. And this book just recently came out. And so any possible snake that you can find in Alabama is going to be listed in this book. And this book is awesome because it talks about the snake, where it can be found in the state, a description about it, and lots of other information. These little dots are where it's been cited, and it has information about its conservation, its status, things like that. So I highly recommend this book if you're very interested in snakes. And this is a recent book, so it's very up to date with all its information. There is also information that you can find on Outdoor Alabama, so the state website for Alabama. There's a list of all the snakes there as well. So we're going to start talking about some different species of snakes, and everyone wants to talk about the venomous snakes. So we know that there are 6 venomous snakes. So I've got this poster to show you. So here are our 6 venomous snake species. We have the cottonmouth, also called the water moccasin. It's the same snake. It just has 2 different common names. We have the eastern diamondback. We have the pygmy rattlesnake. We have the timber rattlesnake, so 3 different rattlesnake species. We have the copperhead, and we have the coral snake. Okay. Well, the coral snake is pretty hard to find, okay? It has a lot of mimics as well. The eastern diamondback rattlesnake is pretty hard to find too. It's becoming increasingly more rare. The pygmy rattlesnake, it has a few different pockets of populations. There's a few different kinds of pygmy rattlesnakes. It has a few different pockets of populations that you can find across the state. The more common ones are the cottonmouth, the copperhead, and the timber rattlesnake. And those are the ones that here at the Nature Center, you can find these 3 on our property. You cannot find the other 3 on our property. Alright, so that tells you some things about some different types of snakes. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about snake behavior, because everyone, when they see a snake, and as you might start seeing them this time of year, they want to know, well, what happens when you see a snake? Alright, so let's talk a little bit about snake behavior. And the very first thing we want to talk about when we're talking about snake behavior is, what do most snakes eat? And of course, we can make a generalization about snakes, because there are some snakes that specialize in certain things. For instance, we do have a species of snakes that specializes in eating toads. There are snakes that specialize in eating fish. But as a generalization, we can say that a lot of snakes eat rodents. So they eat rats and mice. In fact, they can eat lots and lots of rats and mice. And that's really beneficial to us because without predators like snakes eating rats and mice, we could have tons of rats and mice. And we need predators to keep those rodent populations under control because rats and mice spread diseases. So that's beneficial to us. So if we're talking about rats and mice, we also have to understand that snakes have to eat these rats and mice whole. Okay, so let's think about that for a second. Snakes, and I have something else to show you here. I have a snake skeleton. A lot of kids, they don't think about the fact that snakes do have bones. So here's a snake skeleton. It is a real snake skeleton. This is of a rattlesnake. So you can see its little rattle here on the end. It has vertebrae, it has ribs, and here's its head. And let me take this off so you can see it better. Contrary to popular belief, snakes don't really unhinge their jaws, but rather the front part of their jaw is not connected. It's really hard to see in this picture, or in this model, I'm sorry, because it's kind of glued together right there. But this part is actually, it's not connected, and that's so that it can open wider, and that's to accommodate a very large meal. And if you look at its teeth are curved back. So that's really cool. And so it eats its food whole. It can accommodate a very large meal by opening up those jaws, and its teeth are curved backwards, and that's to act as a shovel, to shovel in its food. Its teeth are not designed for chewing. So if you think about your teeth, you have these big molars that are made for chewing, versus these teeth are obviously not made for chewing food. Okay? Their muscle design is also not made for chewing their food either. Okay? They have muscle back here for squeezing food if it's a constrictor. Of course, this is not a constrictor. This animal has venom for subduing its prey. But their mouth is not made for killing, necessarily killing, subduing prey, except for some exceptions like the eastern indigo snake, and we'll talk about that a little later. But they are not made to go after their prey and bite and kill with their force of their jaws and teeth. Okay, if they're a venomous snake, they bite and release and inject venom. Or if they're a constrictor, they use the muscles of their body to constrict prey and squeeze and kill. Okay, so if we think about that for a second, we know that they don't have these chewing muscles and chewing teeth. They swallow their prey whole. So if you think about us as a human being, can they try to swallow us whole? Can they actually eat us as human beings? The answer is no. Okay, we're way too big. They can't bite off little chunks of us and try to eat us. Okay, so they can't eat us at all, and they know that. Having this structure, having this design, these adaptations, they can't eat us, and they know they can't eat us. They have to be very good at being able to determine the size of their food, because this is how they are designed. All right, so knowing that, we know that snakes don't view us as food sources. They view us as predators. We're bigger than them. They have these bones that are very delicate, actually, so if we step on them, we're going to be breaking some of these bones. So snakes are actually afraid of us. So that kind of sets us up for what a snake does when it encounters a human. Okay, so we say that snakes are very first cowards, and then they are bluffers, and then they are warriors. That will help you sort of remember the order in which snake behavior goes. And this is well documented by plenty of scientists who have studied snake behavior. So when a snake sees a human, the very first thing it does is it hides. And it uses its wonderful camouflage to try to hide in the leaf litter, or especially you're looking along the creek, so this would be a great place for like a water moccasin to hide or something like that. And it will hide in the leaf litter or around the bank or under the roots or somewhere where it can hide and use its camouflage for its benefit. And sometimes you'll walk right past the snake and not even realize that it's there. and it's just hiding and hoping you don't notice it. That's the benefit of its camouflage. Now, the second thing it'll do, and this is still being a coward, is it's going to try to run away from you if it notices you noticing its presence. All right? Now, a lot of people think that, well, snake will chase them. Okay? Snake will come towards you if it thinks that it smells food. Like if you're in a fishing boat and you have fish and a fish-eating snake smells that fish, I'm not going to say a snake won't come and try to investigate that smell, because it might. But for the most part, snakes are going to try to get to a safe spot. Okay, that could be anywhere. It could be some of these holes in these trees. It could be up a tree. It could be in some of this, the brush or any of these places that look like a hiding spot. And if you are standing in the way of the snake in its hiding spot, it will come towards you. It's not after you. It's trying to get past you to its safe spot. The best thing you can do is step out of its way. Give it a nice clear path. Don't panic and let it go on its way. Most people just panic and they try to run, or they start trying to attack the snake too, because they are afraid and they don't know what to do. Okay, it's understandable. But hopefully if you know what the snake's trying to do, you can stay calm and stay out of its way. Okay, then snakes are bluffers. So if a snake feels like it's cornered and it can't go anywhere and it doesn't know where to go, then snakes are going to act all big and bad. They're going to try to act like the most ferocious beast that ever was. And that's where all of our non-venomous snakes will try to act like they're venomous. It's where our venomous snakes will try to pull out all the stops they have. It's where rattlesnakes will rattle. It's where a cottonmouth will open up its mouth and show you the inside of its mouth. It's where some snakes will play dead. They'll do all sorts of things, and they're trying to scare you away and say, leave me alone. Okay, and the last step is where snakes become warriors. They feel as though they have no other option except to try to bite you. Okay, and if you let them progress to that point, then you're in danger. So the best thing you can do is, if you see a snake, give it some space and stay away from it. Don't try to ID it, just leave it alone. So there are a lot of ways that you can misidentify a snake, and that's because snakes tend to look a lot alike, and they do that on purpose. We're going to show you some snakes that look a lot like other snakes, and why you should just, if you see a snake, just leave it alone. If you want to learn more about snakes, you should pick up a book like what we recommended, and this is another book, The Secret of Snakes, another book that we recommend. These are some tools to help you learn to identify certain snakes, and you can also join a Facebook group that I highly recommend to help you learn more about snakes. It's called Alabama Reptile and Amphibian ID and Education. Go there, join that group, start seeing pictures of snakes, post pictures of your own, get educated, and learn how to ID snakes. But learn from the professionals, and don't try to just go out and learn by yourself. Okay, because you don't want to do something that might get you hurt. All right, so we're going to show you some snakes now, and I'm going to show you first a very common snake, which is a gray rat snake. And this is actually one of the most common non-venomous snakes in Alabama. And one of the things about this snake is that it will act like a rattlesnake. It'll rattle its tail, it'll make itself look really big, it can flatten out its head and make it look like a diamond shape, which is why that trick of having a diamond shaped head doesn't always work, because non-venomous snakes will use that to try to act like a venomous snake. So I'm going to show you the snake. Do we have any questions so far? Please feel free to ask me some questions. And this is Oakley, and he got the name Oakley because they're sometimes called oak snakes. They're also called chicken snakes. Okay, we've had Oakley here at the Nature Center since Oakley was a wee little baby, and Oakley is quite used to being handled, although these are harmless snakes, and this is a pretty common coloration for this part of the state, especially with this green background. I've also seen them further south in the state, very light colored, almost slate colored, and then up in North Alabama I've seen them very, very dark. So they have a lot of color variation, and they have a lot of differences in individual to individual. So if you think about it, just like people, we're all different. Snakes are very different too, so you can't just memorize one picture of one species. You've got to look at lots of pictures to learn to identify snakes, because they all look different. They're all individuals. So this is Oakley, and Oakley looks totally different than our other gray rat snake, Bandit. All right, and so he has these little blotches, and if I turn him over, he's got this checkered belly. Very good tree climber. Excellent at eating lots of rats and mice. Will also eat eggs, and so you may have found it in your chicken coop, which is how he got the name chicken snake. But he might eat a few eggs from your chicken coop, but it's pretty easy to relocate out of your chicken coop and move somewhere else if you know for sure 100% that that's what you have. If you found it in your chicken coop and it looks like this, I mean, this is a pretty easy one to start to learn to identify. And this snake is pretty easy to relocate and keep around, because they do actually help a lot with the rat population, and that helps with diseases. So studies have shown that areas that have more snakes have less instances of tick-borne diseases, and that's really cool. So ticks actually are transported on rats and mice. Snakes eat the rats and the mice. They also eat the ticks, and so they help keep tick populations down too, and they actually reduce the rate of tick-borne illnesses. That's really cool. All right, I'm going to show you another now. I'm going to show you some mimics. And so the first one I'm going to show you is Bacon. And Bacon got the name because Bacon is a hognose. And so some of Bacon's adaptations is, I mentioned a few of them earlier, playing dead. So you get so scared, it'll just roll over, mouth out, open, tongue out, everything, play dead. Okay? And that's just trying for you to think that he's dead so that you'll go away and leave it alone. But usually before the playing dead act, usually this snake will flare up, make its head real big, and almost look like a cobra. And so this is Bacon, and when they're younger they can be very, very red. And Bacon was fiery red and orange, and now she's almost black. You can still see a little bit of pattern to her. You can see that she has that little stub nose, which is how she got the name Hognose. That's why her name is Bacon. And you can see she can flare her head out, and I'm just barely pressing on her, but you can see how she can make her head look really big. And so a lot of people see these in their yard and they think that they found a venomous snake. And her behavior, well, and she'll hiss, she'll make lots of sounds, she'll be so dramatic in making you think that. And then, of course, if you sit there and bother her too much, she'll roll over and play dead. And that's just her defense mechanism. And these are really cool snakes. These are toad eaters. So they primarily eat toads. They actually have a little fang in the very back of their mouth. And it's made to pop toads. So when they go to eat a toad and the toad's all full of air trying to make itself look big, they can actually pop that toad. So they eat toads, but they will eat mice. And so Bacon here eats mice here at the Nature Center. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put her up and get out another snake. And this other snake is one that is frequently confused with a venomous snake. So water snakes, we have a lot of different species of water snake here in Alabama. And they all have really rough scales, okay? And they can be confused with water moccasins that also have rough scales, although some of their colors are very bright, especially when they're young. And so they can be confused as copperheads or something when they're younger. But they're really beautiful snakes, and they like to hang around water. And so this is Nero, and Nero's a little squirmy because Nero is still young, and you can see his coloration. This is a Midland water snake, checkered body, very bright colored because still very young. And this is also a snake that will flare out his head and make himself look very diamond shaped. And they're very fast moving. They're very dramatic. When I find them in the creek or something, they usually fling themselves off whatever branch they're on and into the water and go hide up in the banks. And it can scare people very easily because of the way they act. But it's just really because they're so skittish. So that's just the way they behave. But they're a beautiful snake, and this is also a snake that's very variable in their color and their pattern. All right. All right. And for this next snake, I'm going to need a little bit of hand sanitizer. This next snake might actually smell all those other snakes on me and think that I smell like food. So you might can guess what kind of snake we're going to get out next. This is Rainy, which means queen, because she is a female king snake. And so this is an eastern king snake. We have a lot of different kinds of king snakes here in the state of Alabama. This is a protected species here in Alabama. We have a permit to be able to keep this snake here to use for education. So you have to be permitted to be able to own one of these. And their populations have been in decline, and all of our snake species are really in decline. It's because people kill them indiscriminately and without knowing what species they're killing or what value they have, especially to our ecosystems. This snake in particular will not only eat rats and mice, but also eats other snakes, including venomous snakes. In fact, it is another snake's, a venomous snake's venom will not affect the snakes. So the other snake that does this is the eastern indigo snake, and I mentioned it earlier because the eastern indigo snake is unique in that it does have some jaw power, because the eastern indigo snake has a different method. It actually does eat mostly other snakes, and it can attack the head of another snake and use its jaw power to crush the head of another snake. That's unusual for a snake to have. That's pretty unique to the eastern indigo. And those are very rare in Alabama. Right now, they're being reintroduced. So I'm going to put Rainy up.
We have a question about the previous two snakes back. How large will a hognose snake get?
So, I can actually make sure. I think Bacon is about, she's considered an adult. I think she can get a little larger than that. You don't often see them much larger than that. But I can actually look that up. Do we have another question? I can actually look that up and post it, the exact size that they can get. But I'm wanting to think that, oh, here it is. There is some kind of pollen or something that's really getting me right now. So it's considered a medium size, and of course it's in metric. So I'll get back with you and put that of what size, but she is considered an adult. We've had her for I think 3 years now, so she is she's full sized. She'll continue to grow though, and it won't be very much though. Snakes also do shed their skin, and you know, humans shed their skin too. We shed our skin in little flakes, but snakes shed theirs all at once. So you might have seen these. We posted a nest not too long ago on social media, and it was a wren's nest that was using bits of snake skin in its nest. So this is actually of our other rat snake. This is our gray rat snake Bandit. This is his skin. And then we actually have our eastern indigo snake skin, and our corn snake skin, a speckled king snake skin, and another little baby corn snake skin. These are laminated just to show you some different kinds. Sometimes, depending on the snake and the shed and everything, you can look at the shed and tell what kind of snake it was. Not always, but if there's a really distinctive pattern, you can. So that's something really cool about finding a snake den around. Now, if you are concerned about snakes in your yard, around your house, and things like that, just know that if you have food, water, and shelter for snakes around your house, you will always have snakes. Okay, so think about brush piles, areas around water, especially brush piles around water, lots of places for them to hide, lots of rodents around your area, things like that. Those are perfect places for snakes to live. So even if you kill a snake, well, you just open the real estate for another one to move in if you have those resources. So the best thing to do if you don't want snakes around your area is to clean up those and try to eliminate the rodents around you, and to eliminate hiding spots, and to make sure you don't have brush piles. Keep areas around creeks and ponds and stuff completely mowed down. So that's some of the best things that you can do, because killing the snake doesn't actually stop anything. Another one's just gonna move right in, and it actually just hurts our populations, and it does a number on things like rats and mice. And some of those snakes actually could be in trouble, and they're important to the ecosystem. If there is a snake that is really in an area that is really bothersome and it's making you very uncomfortable, then there are places, there's somewhere that you can go to. I'm actually going to put it in the comments. It's part of, if you go to that Facebook group that I mentioned, the Alabama Reptile and Amphibian ID and Education Group, they actually have a snake assistance program. There's a map. We have an incoming. There's a map that you can go to, and on that map you can find the nearest person to you that will come and remove that snake for you, relocate it to another suitable habitat away from you. So that's a lot better than it being killed. And so people actually do that. Here's some snake equipment that people use, that professionals will use to safely move a snake, a venomous snake, and transport it so that the snake is not hurt and that the people are doing it safely for them, and it can be moved to another suitable location. So that's a better alternative than killing the snake. And just remember that when you kill a snake, you are putting yourself in danger. So more people get bit by snakes when they're killing a snake than any other time. There's a lot of statistics behind snake bites, and when you get too close to a snake, you put yourself in danger, because the snake knows that you're too close. You make it very, very uncomfortable by getting that close to it, and so it's going to be more likely to bite you through that than any other time. So leaving it alone is actually safer for you. If you really want it moved, you can call somebody, but killing it is actually one of the worst things you can do for your safety and for our environment. So keep that in mind. If you have more questions, I'd love to be able to answer them. Please send me a message or comment on Facebook, and I'd love to be able to answer any questions you have about snakes, snake behavior, about different snake species in Alabama, and I will see you next week. Thanks for joining.